My wife and I saw our 5-year-old daughter, but older. This happened a few months ago, in early January, and it still sends chills down my spine whenever I think about it. My wife and I were in the kitchen, prepping lunch and chatting casually about our plans for the week. Our 5-year-old daughter was in the living room, engrossed in an episode of Bluey. We live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment with a layout that allows us to see part of the corridor and hallway from the kitchen. We were the only ones in the house. The atmosphere was peaceful, just another ordinary day. I was sitting behind my wife, who was busy chopping vegetables at the counter. We were laughing about something trivial when my wife suddenly stopped mid-sentence. She started to turn around to face me, but froze halfway, her eyes fixed on the kitchen door. Her face went pale, and I could see genuine fear in her eyes. "What is it?" I asked, feeling a twinge of anxiety creeping in. She didn't respond immediately, but instead let out a loud, shaky gasp. The sound of her distress made my heart race, and I instinctively turned my head to follow her gaze. I caught a fleeting glimpse of a figure turning the corner toward the living room. It happened so quickly, yet I was certain that I saw someone. My immediate thought was, holy fuck, someone broke in. My daughter's alone in the living room. Panic set in, and the only thing I could think to do was grab a knife. I shouted at my wife to call the police and rushed out of the kitchen. I sprinted down the corridor and burst into the living room, expecting the worst. But to my shock, there was nothing out of the ordinary. My daughter was sitting on the couch, completely oblivious to the chaos that had just erupted. She looked up at me with innocent confusion and asked, "What's up, Daddy?" I must have looked like a madman, standing there with a knife in my hand, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I tried to compose myself and asked her if she had seen anyone come into the room. She shook her head, her eyes wide with confusion. "No, Daddy. I've just been watching TV." I quickly scanned the living room, checking behind the couch, inside the closet, and even under the coffee table. There was no sign of anyone. The windows were closed and locked, and we live on the 3rd floor. If someone had tried to escape that way, they would have faced a significant drop. I checked the front door. It was securely shut, and there were no signs of forced entry. Everywhere I looked, there was nothing, no sign of an intruder. This entire search took less than 10 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I went back to the kitchen, where I found my wife still standing in the same spot, tears streaming down her face. She was so terrified she hadn't even called the police as I had asked. I wrapped my arms around her, trying to calm her down. It took a while before she could speak coherently. When she finally did, what she described sent shivers down my spine. My wife said she had seen a tall woman dressed in a floral dress and high heels walking across the corridor, but it wasn't just any woman. She said the woman stopped when she noticed she was being watched, turned slowly to face her, and locked eyes with her. My wife swears that the woman looked exactly like our daughter, but older. I only saw a quick glimpse of the figure turning the corner, but my wife's detailed account was unnerving. She said the woman had the same facial features, the same hair color, even the same expression our daughter often had when she was deep in thought. It was as if she was looking at our daughter, aged 20 years. When my wife gasped, the woman hurriedly turned the corner into the living room. That was the part I had seen the back of the figure disappearing around the corner. We sat down together, trying to make sense of what had happened. We discussed every possible explanation. Could it have been a hallucination, a trick of the light? But how could we both have seen the same thing? And why did it look so much like our daughter? That night, neither of us could sleep. Every little sound in the apartment made us jump. We checked on our daughter multiple times, but she slept soundly, blissfully unaware of the horror her parents were experiencing. Over the next few days, we continued to search for a rational explanation. We even considered the possibility of a glitch in the Matrix, something that caused a momentary overlap of different timelines. The idea seemed absurd, but so did everything else that had happened. We never found any answers. The figure never appeared again, and life slowly returned to normal, but the memory of that day lingers. It was the strangest, most terrifying moment of our lives, and we're both still haunted by it. I've shared this story here because I need to know if anyone else has experienced something similar. Have any of you seen glimpses of people who shouldn't exist? Particularly those who bear an uncanny resemblance to your loved ones. Any insight or similar experiences would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for reading. Stay safe, everyone. Update: my wife and I saw our 5-year-old daughter, but older. First, I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming support and thoughtful responses to my initial post. It's been a few months since the incident, and I wanted to share some updates with the community. After that terrifying day, my wife and I decided to take some precautionary measures to ensure our family's safety and peace of mind. We installed a security system with cameras covering all entrances and hallways. We also placed motion detectors in various rooms, including the living room and corridor. The goal was to catch any potential intruder or strange occurrence on camera and to have some sort of evidence to explain what we experienced. For the first few weeks, we were on edge, constantly checking the cameras and the motion detector alerts. However, nothing unusual happened. The security footage showed only the mundane, everyday activities of our family. It was a relief, but also a bit frustrating because it left us without any explanation for what we had seen. In an attempt to find some rational explanation, I did some research into visual and auditory hallucinations. I discovered that under extreme stress, the mind can play tricks on you, sometimes creating vivid and convincing images or sounds. While this could explain my wife's detailed account, it didn't explain why I also saw a glimpse of the figure. We also talked to a child psychologist about our daughter. Although she seemed unaffected by the event, we wanted to ensure that she was okay and not experiencing any hidden anxieties. The psychologist reassured us that our daughter was perfectly fine and suggested that if we were concerned, we should try to maintain a calm and stable environment at home. Interestingly, we did notice one small but odd detail in the weeks following the incident. Our daughter, who loves to draw, started sketching pictures of what looked like a woman in a floral dress. When we asked her about it, she said it was just a character she imagined. She didn't seem disturbed or scared, and the drawings were childlike and innocent. Still, it gave us a bit of a chill. My wife and I also reached out to a local paranormal investigation group. They came over one evening with their equipment and conducted a thorough investigation of our apartment. They used EMF detectors, audio recorders, and infrared cameras. They spent several hours but found no evidence of any paranormal activity. They were very professional and assured us that sometimes these experiences are one-off events that can't be easily explained. As time passed, the memory of that day became less sharp, and we slowly returned to our normal routine. We still occasionally discuss it, especially when one of us gets a little spooked by a creak in the house or a shadow out of the corner of our eye, but overall, life has gone back to normal. In the end, we may never know what we saw that day. It remains a strange, unexplained event in our lives. While part of me is still curious and wants answers, another part is content with the fact that nothing further has happened. Our daughter is happy and healthy, and that's what matters most. Thank you again to everyone who offered support and advice. It's comforting to know that there are others out there who have experienced similar unexplainable events. If anything new happens, I'll be sure to update you all. For now, we're just trying to move forward and not dwell too much on the past. Stay safe, everyone. Final update: my wife and I saw our 5-year-old daughter, but older. I wanted to provide a final update to our story. It's been several months since the incident, and while we have found some rational explanations for parts of what happened, other aspects remain an eerie mystery. Firstly, we had an electrician come in to check the wiring and outlets in our apartment. He found a few faulty connections that could potentially cause electromagnetic interference. While it's a stretch, there are theories suggesting that such interference might affect the human brain and cause hallucinations or strange sensations. This could potentially explain why my wife and I both saw something that day. Regarding the security system we installed, the cameras and motion detectors have been running flawlessly. They've captured our day-to-day life without any anomalies. However, the peace of mind they've provided has been invaluable, allowing us to slowly let go of our initial fear and paranoia. Our daughter's drawings of the woman in the floral dress continued for a while. We talked to her about it gently, trying not to alarm her. She eventually moved on to other subjects in her artwork. We even took her to a child psychologist just to be sure there were no underlying issues. The psychologist assured us that children often draw from their imaginations and things they see in passing, which helped us relax a bit. One particularly chilling aspect of this ordeal was the description of the figure my wife saw. We recently visited my parents and, while looking through old photo albums, we stumbled upon a picture of my great-grandmother. She was wearing a floral dress remarkably similar to the one my wife described. My great-grandmother passed away long before I met my wife, and we don't have any pictures of her in our apartment. When I showed the picture to my wife, she turned pale and confirmed that the woman she saw looked exactly like my great-grandmother, just younger. This revelation left us deeply unsettled. Was it possible that my wife saw a ghostly apparition of my great-grandmother? While we can't be certain, it's a detail that adds another layer to the mystery. On another note, we did find one more piece of rational explanation. Our daughter loves to play dress-up and had a small box of old clothes and costumes that included a floral dress from a thrift store. It's conceivable that she might have worn it while playing, and in a moment of heightened stress, my wife's mind could have transformed that memory into something more sinister. Despite these rational explanations, we're still left with questions. Why did we both see something at the same time? Why did my wife have such a vivid, specific vision of our daughter as an adult? And the resemblance to my great-grandmother's photo remains a chilling coincidence. Since that day, we've experienced no further incidents. Life has mostly returned to normal, but the memory of that day lingers in the back of our minds. It's something we discuss occasionally, especially when strange little things happen around the house, but it no longer consumes our thoughts. In the end, we've accepted that some things might never be fully explained. Whether it was a glitch in the Matrix, a shared hallucination, or a brief glimpse into another reality, it remains a part of our family's strange history. Thank you to everyone who followed our story and provided support and insight. Stay curious and stay safe.